What's going on, my friends? Happy Friday afternoon. Let's have some fun today. Why not? What have we got to lose? Number of things to discuss. Won't be a long day, though. Won't be a long video today. But there's definitely things to talk about, particularly interest rate wise. We'll discuss that. We'll discuss some of the concerns that people have with the markets. We'll look at our day today, where we got the love that I was hoping for yesterday that we discussed in detail. And I want to reiterate very adamantly, because a lot of VA buyers are missing the opportunity, I think, right now in this market. It really is the perfect market for VA buyers. And for someone like myself, who's, man, I mean, over the last 2 years, I probably pre-approved hundreds of people who are VA buyers that were unable to buy a home. They were perfectly approved, perfectly, capable of purchasing. The market was just too darn competitive. It was just too darn competitive. They didn't have enough cash, or they couldn't release contingencies or cover the appraisal gap, or a number of different things. And they were unable to buy homes. And now I'm seeing, almost every VA deal that's getting into escrow, they're getting concessions from the seller. We're getting, we're not even getting multiple countered in some cases. And it's a much better market to be a VA buyer. And some people might say, well, you said that prices could go down 5 to 10%. Wouldn't it be better to wait until then? Maybe, but what if I'm wrong? What if I'm totally wrong about prices going down, and we just take off in 2 or 3 months and you miss the window? It's not about timing it and getting it just right. What you want to make sure you do is this: when you're buying and selling real estate, ideally, you never sell the real estate you purchase. Never. That's not the case for everyone, but that should always be the first thought: is how can I keep it? And if that doesn't pencil, okay, then sell it. You want to sell ideally in a seller's market if you can. If you can sell in a seller's market, that's ideal. You want to buy when things are better for buyers, where buyers have some hand in the equation, where buyers have the ability to actually negotiate. There was no negotiating going on. What we were doing the last 3 years, or the last 2 years, trying to buy houses, was like a mating ritual. We were like trying to woo the sellers and listing agent into choosing us to be the lucky ones to hit the lotto and get their house. They don't have that right now. And I think that it's really, really important that people who are VA buyers, and I work with a lot of veterans. Oh, see, here we go. Look at this. There's Steve Turner. Just got 15,000 closing costs covered on a maybe a pool home. That's what we were going for there. Pool home. There it is. Okay, I see. You corrected it. On a pool home, $15,000 on a VA offer. This is a terrific market for VA buyers. Terrific market. The best one we've seen in years. So does that mean you should run out and buy a home? Oh, we got to buy a house immediately. No, you don't need to do that. I covered watch yesterday's video to exactly how to look at the market, how to research it, how to use Redfin to basically get all the information you need. All those homes I was favoriting yesterday while I was doing that, I was getting tons of emails. In fact, last night I got one: hey, this one went into contract, price reduced on this one. I mean, it sends you all open house on that one. It sends you all of that information. It's so easy to do. So watch yesterday's video if you want to learn how to actually research the market. But this is the time for VA buyers to shine. I want to quickly talk about this from interest rate perspective, because VA rates are always lower than conventional rates, neck and neck with FHA rates, but just a far better loan program than FHA. FHA is a loan that you get that you pretty much have to refi at some point. You really want to refi at some point. You don't refi a VA loan unless rates go down. But remember yesterday we were looking at this, and I was saying, like, we got the move we wanted. We're right up against resistance. We've got the 50-day moving average. We've got this Fibonacci in here, and we're as long as we can bust through that. Look, we did. We got indecision candle, so not the best candle. I would like to see a different looking candle, but nonetheless, we opened and we closed right at the same place, right there, and we leapfrogged that resistance. So my theory that we are headed to here, maybe here at least in the short run, which is 0.25% to 0.5% lower interest rates than what we're seeing right now. is alive and well. I mean, we are looking good for that. It really couldn't have been much better. Applause to the bond traders out there who made this possible. But, you know, we made it past it. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't resistance here. We have previous rejection here. And so I think that's what we're sort of testing today. But if we can get up here into this area, it's just free wide open. I mean, it's just straight line to here. And that's, like I said, 0.25% to 0.5% lower interest rates. And that could be a day, it could be 2 days away. So we got to keep an eye on that. As a broker, as someone with deals in escrow, I'm also looking to potentially flip loans from the banks they're currently with to lower rates for people. That's something we can do as a broker. So in escrow, we're not married to the bank. We're not married to the bank. A lot of trash talking going on. And then now that the industry is more competitive, bankers talking trash about brokers, vice versa. There's no real point in that. There's just facts about the two. And one of the nice things about being a broker is you're not married to, you're not selling a bank's rate sheet. You're trying to help your client find the best bank for them. And that's what we do. So we have that ability. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this whole thing plays out, but it's going the way that I want it to. It's going the way that I hoped it would. We should all be truly, honestly excited about this. This is good. This is very, very good for interest rates. Trust me on that one. Loving it. So for VA buyers, for example, you're looking at, call it low to mid 4s right now for interest rates with no points. If all of a sudden we drop 0.25% or 0.5%, we could be in the 3s. And I told you this might happen, and I told you it could happen soon. We could be 1 or 2 days away from that. And I'm not just being overly optimistic here. This thing could go the other way too. We could completely just die off of some news that the Fed is doing something or whatever. Like, there's totally possible that could happen. Totally possible. Just isn't what it looks like. And this isn't a flash in the pan kind of situation. We've got all sorts of bullish candles here, very nice wicks, a huge bounce off of support, and then we leapfrog serious resistance. I mean, I'm not being pie in the sky here. This is just reality. And I think it's something we need to consider. Imagine if VA rates are in the 3s by Wednesday. That's possible now. So the reason why, and I'll give you a brief overview of what we discussed yesterday. Getting pre-approved first, figure out what your budget is, research the market, and your market could be a certain area, it could be a certain type of home. The market for the home that you're looking for might be something completely different than the next person. So figure out what that is, research that, and then keep your eyes on it. Be ready to pounce, because there aren't a lot of desperate sellers right now. There aren't, but there could be, there could be. And if there is, or if you start to see some prices drop a little bit, you're going to want to be on top of it. Because I'll tell you right now, there's still a lot of buyers hawking the market. And let's do this. I want to talk about this. Oh, that shows me live. That's funny. Okay. So today, is there no way to really do that, huh? Let's see if this works. Nope. Okay, never mind. Well, I'll just discuss it with you. So if you talk to someone who, and this is just quick reality check for everyone who thinks that the real estate market's going to crash. If you're like, you know what, I'm going to pass up on looking at this weakness in the market that everyone's been waiting for a couple of years, because I think the market's going to crash. I've been sort of daily providing this on my Facebook page of, here are some things to consider. Here are some things to really think about. And the truth is that buyers don't really make the floor anymore in the market. Forbearance is the new market floor. And this is something we learned. These are lessons that were learned during the crash. And when we crashed, the banks were just foreclosing on properties. They had no process in place other than to just do what they've always done. They're used to foreclosing on properties in situations where it's a very small piece of the market. So is extremely troublesome for them and bad for them to be essentially devaluing their own assets on the way out of exiting them. It was a stupid thing to do. There were so many foreclosures they just weren't prepared for. So a couple years into that, they come up with this thing called loan modifications. Loan modifications was their way of basically saying, hey, let's not foreclose. Let's work this out. Let's figure out how we can not foreclose here and not lose a lot of money and make this really easy on everybody, and also make your non-recourse loan recourse, because this is technically a renegotiation or a refi, which would make your non-recourse purchase mortgage now a recourse loan, which we could collect on you should we have to ultimately foreclose. So that's the reason why they did it. Now it's called forbearance, but it's the same thing. Right now, you test this out. If you have a mortgage, call your servicer and say, hey, things are looking a little tough. Do you guys have forbearance? And they will say, yes, we do. We can put you right into it. Make sure you tell them, I don't want to go in. I don't want it. I want to ask some questions about it, but I don't want it, because they will just throw you into. They're in a hurry to get you into forbearance. It's totally crazy. They will try to get you into forbearance. I have no idea why. There's probably government incentives or there's something going on with it, but they don't want to foreclose. So everyone you talk to who is a crashy, or someone who's like, yeah, the market's going to crash, they'll tell you, just ask them, like, well, why do you think the market's going to crash? Well, I think there's going to be, a lot of job layoffs. Okay. And we're going to talk about that today too. I've got one for you on that, which is interesting. Say, well, there's going to be a lot of layoffs. Okay. So if there's going to be a lot of layoffs, then people won't be able to make their mortgage payments and they'll have to sell. Right. That's at the end of the day, everyone who believes in a crash believes that is the path. The problem is people aren't forced to sell their homes anymore. Back in the day, they had to. You either made your payment, sold your home, or they would foreclose on you. Now you can do forbearance. So sellers pick the floor. If prices get so low that sellers don't want to sell at those prices, they can just say, you know what, call the bank, forbearance. Someone gets into a distressed situation, both borrowers lose their job, forbearance, boom. We don't have to make a payment now. We're going to weather the storm. This is a crucial element to understand if you really want to know why the market truly can't crash, because we're not going to have distressed sellers. There'll still be foreclosures. There's still going to be, but it's a small percentage. We're not going to have in mass, let's say 10% of the market or 20% of the market, fire selling homes. They'll just do forbearance. And that stops the bleeding, and it puts sellers back in control, where buyers would be sitting going, well, if it was 100,000 less, I'd buy it. And well, we're never going to get there because I'm not going to sell it for that. And that puts a floor in the market. There's that and the Fed. The two things combined, I'm just telling you, even in the worst case scenario, and COVID was a perfect example. In COVID, a horrible situation, worst thing possible for real estate, stay in your house. How are you going to look and buy another house? You have to stay in your house. Stay in your house. The market freaked out for a couple weeks. And then it was like, forbearance. Here we go. Anybody need it? Who needs it? Who needs forbearance? You need forbearance? You need forbearance? Everybody gets forbearance. And so that put the floor in, and then you saw what happened. The 2 years after that, bam, market went nuts because the floor was in. Nobody had to sell. There was no capitulation. And that's the way that it is now. So what's up, Pig Rob? Yeah, say what's up. We're live here. It's Friday afternoon. Trying to have some fun. I'm going to walk through some stuff with you. Comments, questions, always welcome. So there's forbearance, which sets the floor. I want people to understand that. And then also, okay, if I am still concerned about jobs, I still am concerned about recession, I still am concerned about downside. Always. I'm not a permabull. A lot of people think I am. I'm really more of a contrarian / realist. So I want to know for real what's going on. I don't just know, well, I think, or it feels like. Who cares about that? The market doesn't care about that. I had someone in the mortgage industry tell me, man, I'm going to make half as much money this year as I did last year, or something like that. I'm like, the market doesn't care. I'm sorry. The market doesn't care how much money you make. People in the real estate industry are freaking out more than anybody else because we're the ones who are actually hit the hardest. If you are a realtor or a loan officer, you can see by the way your pipeline looks that it's going to hurt. It's not going to be the same as it's been. That's not really true for anyone else yet. There aren't a whole lot of other industries that are really at that point. So actually, if you're in the real estate industry, you are feeling this more than everybody else is. So keep that in mind too, if you're in the industry and you're a crashy. So worried about layoffs and downturns, recruiters aren't. We're still seeing job growth on the whole. This is actually a really good article. I'm going to give props to Jennifer Liu here. She wrote a great article. And she included, in fact, right away, a story that's sort of counter to her headline, which to me is always a sign of like a balanced article, where she actually talks about a recruiter who got laid off. And that's how she kind of starts the article off. But main thing that matters here is the data. And this is there's a survey done in June by Employ. Roughly half, a little more than half of U.S. companies under 500 employees have increased hiring levels this year compared to last. Meanwhile, 46% plan to increase hiring for the remainder of the year, and only 7.6 plan to decrease hiring through the year's end. So sometimes all we see is the headlines. What is Google doing, or what is we talked about some big companies this week, like 3M. What's happening with their currency situation? 7-Eleven was letting 880 people go. You see some of those things, and you kind of think, well, that's what's happening to everyone. Or like people who are in the industry, your income is hurting, and so you're like, well, this must be happening to everyone. You have to look a little bit deeper than that to see what's really happening to everyone. What's really happening on the broader scale. She said, we're still seeing job growth on the whole. We haven't seen any demonstrable data showing there has been a true downturn in hiring, which is pretty interesting, right? Pretty darn interesting. So I wanted to make sure that this is so how the dollar's rally is hitting companies this earnings season. Okay, who cares about this article? I wanted to make the point. We talked about IBM, a $3.5 billion write-down because of currency differences in international business. What this is reaffirming for us is that not only does the government need a weak dollar and low interest rates to pay its debts, but these big companies who really run the country, the big companies run the country. I know there's 535 people in Congress. Who pays for their campaigns? Who gets them elected? Okay, it costs $10 million minimum to run for Senate, and you make $200,000 a year. Okay, somebody's got to pay for that. So you either need to be rich, or you got to have people put money in your campaign. So big companies run the country, and big companies are going to and have been getting smoked because of the strong dollar. The strong dollar is a result of Fed action for the most part, and weakness in other countries that's weaker than our weakness. And so there is a massive incentive for every international company, especially that's based in the U.S. or on the U.S. stock exchanges. So every single international company on the U.S. stock exchanges and the federal government all do better and are all benefited by a weak dollar, not the strong dollar that the Fed is bringing to us right now. So when I tell you that you expect the Fed to ease, they want to ease, they're going to ease, they will lower rates, they will do all kinds of things. If they get any excuse to do it, they will, because it's so downhill. There's so much gravity pulling it in that direction between the government itself and the big companies that run the government that they will do it. It is only a matter of time. The opportunity window they're seeing right now, it is limited. I can almost guarantee you that. This was interesting. Russia slashes key interest rate by 150 basis points. They basically took it back to where it was. They raised their rates from 9.5% to 20% in late February. That was following their invasion of Ukraine, warmongering Moscowians. Is also, just FYI, the U.S. government approved basically a credit swap on bonds today with Russia. So I don't know what's going on with that whole situation, but it's definitely not what it seems. And I don't know what the truth is, but something's super rotten in Denmark up there. And, I don't know how many more people need to die senselessly to get to the bottom of whatever it is. I wish it would stop. But Russia in a very precarious position geopolitically, slashing their interest rates to get down to 9.5%. They have managed, my point of showing you this one, they have managed their currency and the monetary elements of their government far better than we have. And they have had the kitchen sink thrown at them, from sanctions to trade issue, all kinds of things. They have handled it so much better than we have. If anything, we should just be copying what they're doing. So sad to see how poorly mismanaged we have handled this. Just terrible, honestly. I should mention too, before we recap here, there literally is a no income, no employment loan available in the marketplace. And this is like, someone was like, oh, that reminds me of 2006 or 7 when those sort of, you know, Nina loans were out there. Very, very different these days. It's not 100% financing. You need, 40% down. You've got to have certain trade lines. Assets have to be huge. There's, it makes sense. But I wanted to make that known, that if you have a situation where maybe you were W-2 for a long time, you just switched to self-employed, but you have a big down payment, you have good assets, there's a loan there. There's a possible loan there. So just keep that in mind. You may not think you qualify. Give it a shot. If you're not sure, there's literally no downside to trying. You can try to qualify. Getting your credit pulled for a mortgage does no damage to your credit score. I can send you evidence of that. There's no downside to getting pre-approved, seeing where you stand, and then if you're pre-approved in a good position, then hawking the market. Hawking the market right now is really fun. There's inventory coming on. It's not like the same houses. Remember when there was such a low inventory, you go to look, the next day, it's like the same houses. That's not happening now. Now there's new stuff every day. And so for buyers, that's a good thing. It's a really helpful thing. But look, I'll be around all weekend. Let me know if you need me. This is a 7-day-a-week business, and this is the time to strike. If you see something you like, it's the time to strike. We're back to the old days where you could be the first offer. Hey, we're going to give you a full list. Okay, we'll take it. Or, hey, we're going to come in a little under list, but we're ready to go. All right, we'll run it by the sellers. Last 2 years, they'd be like, don't even write it. Don't waste your time. Now it's like, we'll entertain it. We'll look at it. We'll counter you. Cool. So now's the time. Now's the time to take advantage. Now's the time to be looking. Now's the time to be looking. Doesn't mean you have to pull the trigger. You pull the trigger when you find something that works for you. You pull the trigger when you see something that looks good for you, that makes sense for you, that you like. But now's the time to be hawking the market for sure. All right, guys, I'm going to call it a day. Have an amazing weekend. I'll be around if you need me. Comic-Coners, stay safe, stay cool out there, have fun, and I'll see you guys next week.